Okay, Victor. First things first. Before we do anything else, we need to get you the ability to transform at will. Now, that actually takes some time to get used to. It's not like in the movies where it's just easy to do. The ability to transform comes from being able to call upon a specific set of feelings, both physical and spiritual, even emotional. It's a specific combination of things that's very complex that triggers your individual transformation, and it differs from wolf to wolf. So no one can teach you how to do it other than you. But luckily, even though it takes a great deal of time to learn to do it on your own, we have found a workaround. We being all werewolves, of course. So follow me, Renee said, as she stepped outside of the room, opening the door and gesturing for me to follow. I was still shaking off her previous comments, but did my best to stay calm. I was actually a little bit surprised that she didn't just jump me immediately. I mean, she seemed so heavy into it before. But then again, Renee was a little strange. She liked to pick her moments, and it seemed like the moments she liked the most were the ones where I least expected. Just like when she gives me kisses. She likes to surprise me. So, chances are, if I know Renee, the next time she tries to go for it will most likely be when I least expect it, I thought to myself as I followed her down the halls. Before long, it became obvious where we were going. She was taking me down the same pathway that led to the room that we were in before, where she showed me the book. That big, very old werewolf Bible of sorts. So I wasn't at all surprised when we ended up there. Renee unlocked the door and strolled in. I entered the room, closing the door behind me, and simply standing somewhere around the middle. Not really knowing what to expect, I simply kept watching Renee as she moved to the opposite side of the room, going towards a large chest with, once again, another lock on it. Using the same key that she used to open the doorway into the room, she unlocked it, swinging the lid open and then beginning to shuffle her way around inside, appearing as if she was moving some things. Eventually, she seemed to grab a few articles and then close the lid behind her, putting the lock back on it, before placing a small assortment of objects on the table in front of me. Okay, Victor. So this is going to be your werewolf entry pack. Welcome to being a werewolf sort of thing. So I'll explain what they all do, Renee said, gesturing to the objects on the table. The first thing on the table seemed to be a ring, some sort of metal ring with some engraving on it. After that, there was a pill bottle with a number of pills inside of it, but they didn't look like typical medications. No, they were strange looking, small, round, and not round in the way that typical pills are. They actually looked like small black marbles. I had seen something like it before. It seemed like a traditional Chinese medication, which usually tend to be made from natural ingredients and done much differently than the mass-produced medications here in America, and was kept in an old-time glass bottle with a cork on it. And the last thing on the list was what appeared to be a wristband, sort of like the one she wore, that had lots of dangly charms hanging from it. Except this one didn't seem to have any charms, just lots of places where they could go, should you collect them. Okay, Victor, let's start things off with the most important one, the one that we're going to use today, she said as she picked up the bottle of pills. These are transformation tablets. They're basically a last resort. We use them for wolves that are new to being werewolves and haven't yet mastered their transformation. Basically, the substances within these pills will trigger a transformation. However, they're also limited. They're not easy to make by any stretch of the imagination and contain very rare substances. On top of the fact that they're extremely hard to make and contain very rare substances, their effects are very limited. Each pill will sustain a transformation for about 5 minutes. Most werewolves actually can't afford this. It's a very expensive thing, Victor. This little bottle right here cost about $50,000. What? I shouted. I can't afford something like that. Of course you can't, Victor. But I can. Remember, my dad isn't exactly hurting for money. And $50,000 is barely a scratch in the bucket. It's basically nothing. Well, at least to us. And as you are my husband, what's mine is yours. Yeah, I'm really gonna have to get used to that whole husband thing. Oh, trust me, you'll get used to it. And it does come with very nice perks, doesn't it, Victor? She said, winking at me again, very suggestively as she smiled. Now, the important things to know about these pills. It's not unlimited, Victor. Taking them, well, let's just say it's not good for you. It allows you to transform by taking the pills. But as I said, each pill only lasts about 5 minutes in its effect. And the substances required to trigger a transformation have a detrimental effect on your body when taken in high dosage. So, the limit per day is 3. Take any more than that, and your wolf system, which is technically much stronger than that of a regular human being's, you won't find a werewolf getting sick anytime soon. Well, your system won't be able to fight it off anymore, and you'll experience detrimental effects. Nausea, sickness, cramps, and that's just if you go over by 1 pill. Try to take more than that, and it just keeps getting worse. Take enough of them, and it'll outright kill you. Okay, that seems a bit dangerous. Well, no more than any regular medication. I mean, really, think about it. Aspirin are perfectly fine for you to take, but if you take the whole bottle, you die. This is really no different. Medication is a tool that we can use. So, we can use these pills to trigger a transformation. But listen, Victor, these pills aren't meant to be a crutch. Your end goal is to be able to transform of your own accord whenever you want, and to not be limited by 5-minute bursts. Once you fully master your transformation, there is no time limit. You can stay transformed as long as you want, and take the transformation however many times you want, without any stress or fatigue on your body whatsoever. These pills merely allow you to take the transformation without the added influence of the full moon, which is normally the only way that a werewolf who hasn't mastered the transformation can change. Now, after I finish showing you all of this, I'm going to take you to a nice open space. You're going to take one of the pills and undergo your first conscious transformation. It's very important that whenever you take one of these pills, you try to focus on what you're experiencing in the moment of your transformation. That way, you can focus and try to duplicate that sensation. And once you've mastered duplicating that sensation of your own accord, then you can transform at will. You won't need the pills anymore. But once again, that's only after we're done here, she said, placing the bottle of pills in my hand. So keep a hold of those and we'll use them in a few minutes, she said. I took one last look of the bottle of pills before tucking them away in my pocket. Okay, next up on the list, she said, as she reached down, grabbing the ring from the table and holding it up in front of me. This one is also very important, and once again, very expensive. This is actually a magical tool and implement, created by those in the mage world, and once again, very expensive. This is a suppressor ring. Now, listen closely, Victor. There are many signs that one person is a werewolf. For example, werewolves actually have a powerful scent about them. You probably don't notice it, but since your transformation, you have been putting off a very powerful scent. Your mom probably brushed it off as you not being able to take a shower the night before. But if you continue to go without a suppressor ring, or some other method of suppressing that odor, then people will start to think you just smell. That's one of the things that the suppressor ring takes care of. The suppressor ring cloaks the identifying marks of a werewolf, first of which being your scent, which is much stronger than that of a regular human being, and actually gets stronger the higher your tier is. So, the higher your tier is, the more odor you produce. But, as long as you wear this little ring, you'll smell completely normal. To everyone. Just like me, she said, holding up her hand and showing me one of the rings on her finger, which I had of course seen before, but as she wore lots of jewelry, it didn't seem out of place, especially considering her gothic nature. Now, the next thing the suppressor ring covers up is your spiritual form. As you've already been told, your spiritual form as a werewolf is actually different from your physical form, meaning your soul looks like a werewolf. So, others who might be spiritually aware, like spiritualists, psychics, or mages, might be able to perceive your soul, whether by using natural ability or magical techniques, even magical tools. They can see your soul and instantly know that you're a werewolf. But the suppressor ring forces your soul to hide, basically, causing it to imitate your physical form, meaning even if you're a werewolf, it will make your spiritual form match your physical one. So as long as you're not in a werewolf transformation, your soul will look normal, so long as you're wearing the ring, that is. That's why it's called a suppressor ring. It suppresses all the outward signs that you're a werewolf. And last but not least, she said, as she placed the ring on my hand, without asking me or really talking to me about it. As she did, it didn't feel anything abnormal happening. Everything appeared to be normal, and so I assumed that its function wouldn't really affect me. I suppose if it did, Renee probably would have explained it. Okay, this one is also important, but for different reasons. This is, well, it's your promise bracelet. A promise bracelet? Really? I didn't think that a promise bracelet would be a very important thing to a werewolf. I'll have you know you're very wrong, mister, Renee said, looking at me seriously, as she showed me the bracelet on her wrist that was completely covered in small charms and dangly bits. Each and every one of these charms is a promise that I've given to someone else, or a promise that they've given to me. It's a debt system. A debt system, I replied, looking at the countless charms that hung from her bracelet. Yes, Victor. Whenever you give something to a werewolf and they owe you a debt, or another werewolf gives you something and you owe them a debt, charms are exchanged between the two, either a debt charm or a repayment charm, signifying that you either owe someone something or that someone owes you something. Each charm represents an individual werewolf and is individual to that werewolf, and each werewolf comes up with the design for their own charm that fits them. We actually have a craftsman who does that, and we'll take you to go see him eventually, but it's not of utmost importance at this moment. Besides, it usually takes a while for people to start trying to collect debts, or for a fresh werewolf to try to accrue debts from other werewolves. But basically, this is the system by which we keep track of it all. Well, I don't get it, I said to Renee. If that's the way it works, then where's your mom's and your dad's? Why don't they have a charm bracelet? Well, it's because they're powerful. What? Listen close, Victor. In the world of werewolves, these charms are as good as gold. They can be used to accomplish anything you want whenever you want to accomplish it, so long as you've collected a debt to call in the favor. The debt can be called in by destroying the charm, which will immediately summon the werewolf. But here's the catch. You don't have to be the one who destroys the charm. Whoever destroys the charm calls in the debt. In other words, it's not specifically bound to you, even if it's given to you. So, if another werewolf takes you out, they can claim the debts that you collected. Or, if your debts happen to be left around somewhere unattended, and another werewolf sniffs them out, picks them up, well, they're his then. They can run off with them and use the debts however they want. In fact, they could actually collect the debts right there and then and tell all the people that gave debts to you to kill you, to just team up and take you out. Once a debt is called in, the werewolf has no choice but to fulfill the arrangement. You're bound by spiritual promise. There is no choice in the matter. You have to stay true to whatever you agreed to do, whatever debt you gave, even if that debt is stolen away. That's why I keep my debts on this charm. This handy little bracelet helps me keep the debts close, so no one can just skitter off with them, run away, steal them. It would be very hard to do while they're attached to me, don't you think? It was at that point that it started to become a little bit more clear how valuable the debt system was when it came to werewolves. But if that's the case, then why don't more powerful werewolves, like your dad, have to keep the charms? Well, that's simple, Victor. Once you reach a certain level of power, you can actually be granted what's called a debt ledger rather than a charm bracelet. Like my mother and father both have ledgers rather than bracelets. The ledger is a much more powerful artifact. Unlike the bracelets, it allows one to seal the debts within written script contract and bind it specifically to them, meaning it can't be stolen or taken away. But those ledgers are not easy to come by. They make that little $50,000 bottle of pills look like nothing at all, like buying a piece of candy at a store in comparison to buying a skyscraper. One's just costs more. So, until you're established enough to acquire a ledger rather than a charm bracelet, you need to keep this close at all times. In fact, it's better if you never take it off at all. Sleep with it, shower with it, don't leave it anywhere. Get used to having it with you, because you never know when you'll need to call in a debt. It very well could save your life.